Buffet Networking podcast promotes successful business experts. I'm Tom Rioch, connecting people throughout the world from my podcast studio in Brazil. Joining us today from Boston is Ande Lyons. She's a four-time founder, a former global startup mentor, a serial podcast and live stream host, and currently the podcast host of Don't Be Caged by Your Age. So Ande, why is it important for senior citizens to stay engaged, connected, and learning new skills?
Tom, thank you so much for having me on your wonderful podcast. Here's the scoop. As we age, the more engaged that we stay, the more active and connecting and learning new things, we have more active years in our life. Mm-hmm. And even more importantly, it keeps our brain vibrant, learning new things and staying engaged. And we feel less isolated. I don't know if your listeners know that ageism is the last socially acceptable prejudice in the world. And the World Health Organization says it's costing societies billions by forcing folks at the age of 65 to retire.
Right.
You know, retirement is for athletes and pastures are for horses, right? Humans need to stay engaged. We want to get up in the morning and be on purpose. And what I've learned is that 7 out of 10 pre-retirees are planning on working after they turn 65 because they don't want to lose that connection, that sense of community, that sense of learning. And most importantly, they do not want to be isolated. And that's what happens to so many of our senior citizens who have a lot more to give.
No, that's true. And I lived through that myself. And even here in Brazil, then we were treated, there's a plus side and a minus side of everything.
Yes.
But to that, the mark of retiring is sort of something everybody looks out to beforehand.
Right.
They want to stop what I'm doing because maybe they're not satisfied where they are and what they're doing. So sometimes change should happen even before you retire. They say, I'm going to drudge through this. And then they don't really have any gas left over to do anything else.
That's right. And, you know, and some folks are just so excited about retirement. They don't even plan for what are they going to do, right, after they retire. And then they're sitting there 6 months later and their health is starting to decline. Mm-hmm. Their mind is starting to decline. And what I want to do through Don't Be Caged by Your Age podcast is provide representation. Mm-hmm. So folks can see, oh, how can I repurpose those lived years, right? Mm-hmm. How can I reimagine something that I'd like to do? And you don't even know sometimes what you'd like to do. So folks, when they listen to the podcast, they hear someone and they're doing something, they're thinking, oh my gosh, I never thought of that, but I might like to pull on that thread. And then they could pull on that thread. Maybe they thought it would be landscaping, right? Or gardening or something that they could take to the market.
Podcasting.
And they realize that's what I'm a huge fan of. Come on, share your voice. And of course, we have been indoctrinated for decades to believe these internalized ageist beliefs about ourselves that we're too old to fill in the blank. We're too old to become a writer. We're too old to become a podcaster. We're too old to go into a whole new industry. And definitely in the tech industry, ageism is rampant. And it really upsets me, Tom, because people were coding and building tech companies long before many of the folks under 50 were alive, okay? Technology is not new. Maybe
really, and it isn't, but that's the part of adaptability. And if we just sit back, and that's at any age.
Yes.
And what I say, we could be old, but we shouldn't be obsolete.
That's right.
And I know young people who are obsolete.
Honest to goodness, you know that, listeners, you know, you have seen somebody, you feel that they have already checked out. They're just going to glide through life and that's it. And I get it. It's really hard to figure out what you want to do, what talents that you brought on and learned from that you can transfer to something else. But trust me, there is a way to go through the process. There's a way to update your LinkedIn profile so that bots and algorithms and folks can find you still. And there's a way to tap into your heart's desire,
Right.
your purpose, whatever that looks like. I'm not here to judge that whatsoever. If you've always wanted to become a baker and you wanted to go work at a bakery, I love that for you. But what I don't want to have happen is have people just sit there at home and go, oh, I'm done, and just wait to die. We don't want that.
Tomorrow's going to be not another day. Tomorrow's going to be the same day.
And you said my favorite word, adaptability. As your brain learns new things, and trust me, everyone, look at Tom, look at me. We're podcasting. I'm 67. If I can do it, you can do it. And so it can be a little tricky in the beginning. There's ways to make it easier, but your voice matters, your thoughts matter, your presence matter. And I just think ageism is a prejudice against one's future self. And I really...
You mentioned technology. Today has brought so much technology to us that learning, if we're talking 10, 20 years ago, we're talking pre-internet, learning was tough. You had to go to a library, find a book, and you had to read it. Today, with your handheld device, what some people still call a telephone, right? You're connected to the world.
You are. And I don't know if when I was learning technology in the early days with IBM, so we're talking 1982, you had to code to just do a paragraph for a proposal or a document you were typing in. Where we are today in podcasting, the tools we have today, they're so affordable. Right. I mean, for under $100 a month, you've got a website, you've got editing tools, you've got your mic, you've got everything. You're ready to glow.
I've just recently, another woman I had on as a guest, she was talking about reorganization, doing things, and I actually did that. One of the things I like about podcasting is I learned so much. I really consider it my MBA.
Well, and also you interview. So you have interview style podcasts where you learn so much from your guests.
I learn more. And then what I've done, I apply it. So I've just reduced the size. Everything that I have today is one desk, and we're talking about 1 meter by 1 meter. All right. That's 1 yard. It's 3 feet by 3 feet. It's all here, 2 monitors, everything. I do it by myself. Everything's in hands reach, keep it going, productivity and whatever. So just apply these things. And I can do more and feel better, and it works. And if I make a mistake, I learn and correct it.
Exactly. And, for your listeners, just because the clock strikes midnight on a milestone age does not mean you need to retire and slink off into the sidelines of life. Now, look, if you love playing with your grandkids, I love that for you. If you're so happy going out to your garden every day and putzing around the house, I love that for you. I'm not here to judge. But another 70% of folks really want to be on purpose still and contribute. But how do you reframe all of that? You don't want to do that. I mean, look, there are some folks who are definitely doing the 60-hour week, 80-hour week still. That's fine. But many folks, when they're hitting their 60s, mid 60s, they want to thrive in a different level of hustle.
Now, answer the word purpose. That should be plural. There's just not
purpose
one
is.
thing. And so it's what I want to be with my grandchildren. I want to do that, but I also want to do my podcasting. I also want to do several things. I just don't want to do one thing because as an executive, I was caged into being one thing. And so back to what you say, don't be caged in. Don't be caged in by yourself. It's not even the age.
That's right. On what you think you can't do. And it takes a lot. You have to rewire, not retire, right? You need to take those parts of your brain and say, okay, how are we going to rewire this so that I can have what I'm looking for? And here's a perfect example. I was looking for community. And I thought, well, I can't find a community that I feel like I really belong, but I love indie podcasters. I'm going to create a podcaster community. And I just launched the New England Podcaster Group.
Wow. Isn't that great?
And people are willing to drive a couple of hours to meet in person. Everybody's pretty desperate for in-person experiences, right, Tom?
Well, without being a personal presentation, how can our listeners find you even virtually?
Virtually, I'm everywhere. Either don't be caged by your age. You'll find it LinkedIn, TikTok, and the website. don'tbecagedbyyourage.com, or my name, Ande, A-N-D-E, Lyons, Lyons. Oh my gosh, Google loves me. It goes on forever. You'll find everywhere I'm glowing. And I'd love to learn more about what you all are doing as well in life. So be sure to reach out and connect.
Glowing and growing, right?
Yes, exactly.
So Ande, thanks again for being here.
Thank you so much for having me, Tom.
And again, for our listeners, it's Ande Lyon, ANDELYONS. You'll find her at don'tbecagedbyyourage.com, LinkedIn, and TikTok. Cafe Networking is brought to us by Focus MI Market Intelligence, an agricultural market research specialist in Brazil. More information at focusmi.com. Talk to Tom, talk to the world. Thanks for listening. Till the next time here at Cafe and Networking Podcast.